My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt, Video 4, The Christmas Concert. Well, here is my novella, John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt, a novel by John Passfield. That's me at age 6 or 7 or 8 in a cowboy shirt, not the one of the title, but a cowboy shirt nevertheless. Here's the summary on the back of the cover. As writer John Passfield is driving home from a December book discussion meeting and thinking about the Christmas topics that were discussed, in particular Dickens, who wrote a novella that transformed the world's conception of Christmas, he suddenly finds himself sitting in a sleigh, pulled by Rudolph and 8 tiny reindeer. What an excellent opportunity to ask Santa about a 70-year-old puzzle, the mystery of the missing cowboy shirt. Well, there are 10 segments of the story of the Christmas concert, one per chapter, each about 10 pages apart in this novella. Of course, I could print them all on a page or two and not bother having to flip the pages of the book, but the point is that these are images, and they are interlayered with other images on other topics, related topics, topics which parallel and contrast with the ideas of this little story, as the main character, John, me, tries to figure something out. So that's why I choose to read it this way. So let's go to page 8 then for the first installment of the story of the Christmas concert. Page 8. Oops. Here it is. He was a little boy. He was watching the Christmas concert. He had to go to the washroom. Then we go to page 14. So from 8 to 14. So there's a lot of images in between that comment on this little story, but we're not reading them now. Beside the washroom was the tea counter. The ladies were serving cookies and tea. A lady was getting a cup of tea to drink. That's the second installment. Then we go to page 22. He knew who the lady was. He used to see her every Sunday. Not anymore because he went to a different church. They built a new church in the neighborhood. The lady stayed at the old church, so they didn't see each other anymore. Then to page 30. There we are. She looked at him as she waited for her tea. She didn't know who he was, but the boy knew something about the lady. The lady was his godmother. She didn't know him anymore. To her, he was just a little boy. Then to page 39. He stood and watched the lady. She put the milk and sugar into her tea. Suddenly, something fluttered to the floor. He knelt and picked it up. It was a $10 bill. It had fallen when the lady turned away. On to page 48. Excuse my voice. Page 48. Excuse me again. The lady was walking away. She was carefully balancing the cup of tea. He walked after her, holding the $10 bill. "Excuse me," he said. She was sitting on the aisle. She was balancing the teacup on her knee. Then we go to page 57. "This dropped on the floor. It fell out of your purse. I picked it up off the floor." What if she didn't believe him? She sat there balancing her teacup. She was looking him in the eye. All he could do was tell her. He held the $10 bill in his hand. "It fell on the floor when you bought your cup of tea." Then we go to page 67, so 10 pages further on. for the next installment of this story. Let me get the pages separated here. Why, thank you, my little lad. I didn't know that I'd dropped it. I'll be more careful in future. I can't afford to be dropping money on the floor. I wouldn't have known if you had kept it. I was completely unaware. You're a very polite and kind little boy. His mom and dad were seated further forward. His brother and sister were in the concert. He slid along past the knees and took his seat. Then we go to page 76. My godmother doesn't know me, he thought. She didn't know that it was me. We used to see her every week at the other church. And then the last installment, page 86. He sat and watched the rest of the Christmas concert. He remembered a concert with a skit about Cinderella. He wondered if a fairy godmother could be a little boy. So that's the story. He wonders if he, in this instance, has been her fairy godmother. Okay, so the story actually happened. It happened to me when I was just a little boy. All of what I would call the elements of the story are historically true. My mom and dad and brother and sister and I did start out going to another church, Trinity Anglican Church in St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada. And then a second church was built closer to our house, St. Hilda's Anglican Church. And there was a lady who had been my godmother when I was christened, and I knew who she was. The only detail I've changed in this story is that she dropped money where she bought a cup of tea outside at a trailer because we were having a little summer fair at our church. But I did pick up the money. I did give it to her. She did thank me, and she, my godmother, did not know who I was. I kept that detail original in a short story that I wrote 20 years ago, which I intend to publish someday, but for this novella, I made it an inside story so it could take place at Christmas time since I was writing a Christmas book. But the point I would like to make is that not only do we have worldwide myths, such as the Santa Claus myth, in which we all see spiritual meaning, we believe that Santa Claus represents a force which is active in our lives and the lives of other people. But in addition, we humans have family myths as well. We select events, happenings, stories from our family histories and tell them and retell them, sometimes changing details to make them a little more true to life, you might say. And then we pass these stories, these family stories, around the family and pass them down in the family for years after they happen. So what are myths then? Well, myths are stories that embody values that are very important to the people who tell them and the people who hear them as time goes on. So this is one of those mythical family events that I kept in my mind for almost 70 years. And now I'm passing it on not only to the members of my family, but to anyone who cares to read this little book. So the little book is John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt, a novella by John Passfield. It's found on Amazon if you want to look there for some more information. It's also on my publisher's website, rocksmillspress.com, ROCKSMILLSPRESS.com. Have a look there for more information. Now, if you want to read books about this book, there are 2 free books on my website, johnpassfield.ca. I always write a planning notebook, so you can read about how I planned and wrote this little novella. And I always write a journal, which is actually my reflections on many topics as I'm polishing the finished rough draft. So I did that for this novella as well. That's at johnpassfield.ca, JOHNPASSFIELD.ca. Have a look there. Just click on the icon and you can read about Santa, Christmas, novellas, novels, myths, storytelling, and so on. Lastly, thank you for watching this video.